Now live and on lockdown.
Are you ready?
Broadcasting from Edinburgh, Scotland and across the globe.
Listen here.
You're listening to Ramsey Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders podcast for host Fraser Ramsey.
And good day. Welcome to another edition to Ramsey Unleashed Going Beyond Borders podcast, and doing a bit of a different kind of guest routine this today. We're doing quite relatively local, but more from the west of Scotland rather than the east of Scotland. And the bottom line is we're here to talk with Fiona Taylor, who I met through Edinburgh Coffee Connections networking in Edinburgh, even though she's more the west side in Glasgow. And we're here to talk about the upcoming. She is a speaker, and she does a lot of networking as well. But she's also organising a women's conference in just the end of March, which is it's obviously on International Women's Day, and we're here to get a bit of an insight to that, but also get a bit of an insight to who she is and what her general background, and then we'll talk more in detail regarding the upcoming event in March. So welcome to the Ramsey Unleashed Going Beyond Borders podcast. Fiona, how you doing?
Thank you very much for the invitation, Fraser. I feel very honoured to see. When I heard it was going global and live, I was wow, well impressed.
So tell us a bit about yourself and your background, your sort of life. How did you get? What's your general? What was your kind of education and sort of life like, building up to what you're doing now, basically?
Well, I'd love to say it was all very well planned and thought out, but it's been almost an accident happening, because I came out of university thinking the world was waiting to employ me. And that was the first most definite lie I ever told myself, that the world wasn't. So I went into sales, and from there I went into broadcasting. And by default, I ended up being a speech coach. And I worked for 4.5 years in broadcasting, trained over 40,000 people. And I learned that the best thing to do with people is to record them and let them listen to themselves. And I can honestly put hand on heart and say, in the 4.5 years I was there, I never criticised anyone, because people would listen to their voice and make definitive assumptions about how they felt they sounded, whether they liked it or not. And then they decided who they wanted to speak like. I mean, I'd love to speak like Joanna Lumley, but I'm a West Coaster, and that's not going to happen.
Exactly. So what did you actually study at university? You said, what did you study?
Well, funny enough, I'm actually a field vet. I went to vet school for an hour and a half and thought, you take his temperature where? Oh, no, not me. And what's that awful smell? No, I really think I've definitely made a mistake here. So I then and I went to biochemistry, and probably the same thing. I got stuck in a corner for 20 minutes by this chap in a white lab coat. I'll never forget his name, Dr. Clark. And I said to him, I don't think you like me and I don't like you. This was my second mistake. And then I met my sister and she said, do something easy. So I ended up doing a mismatch between psychology, sociology, and then got into botany and loved it. So I majored in botany many years ago.
There we go. So when you left, obviously, what kind of sales were you into when you left university?
Well, I got a job working for Baker's Sundries, and in those days, it was very much misogynistic. It was all these male bakers. There were no like fancy female chefs or anything. And the first month, I remember getting a pay packet and having commission, and I had to go to the boss and say, listen, I didn't sell anything. And he just laughed. And the bakers were having fun with me because they didn't expect me to last. So 4 years later, I was still trotting around the same bakers, but this time they were listening to me and giving me orders, and I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. And they were great with me. And I realized then at a very early age, if you build the relationships, the business, Fraser, it takes care of itself.
That's good. I'm going to say, keep your hands still because you're banging on there. I can hear your hands tapping on the desk because I'll pick it up.
I'll sit still. Do you know, the reason I got the job actually with H.D. Hardy all those moons ago was I sat on this chair Fraser, and it was broken. And I
All right.
didn't move apparently for an hour. I was too frightened. I thought I was going to fall off the chair, so I never moved. So I'll adopt that attitude again.
There we go. That's the best way. Yeah. But so tell us about what, as you developed from being in obviously sales, and what did you do next after sales? What kind of, where did you, as you progressed through the years? Been here, obviously you've been around. Pardon, not showing your age, but you've obviously been around a
Of
while.
course. No, I think what happened was I did a lot of work. I had 2 long-term jobs in sales,
Mhm.
and then I worked in international sales, and I worked for a few blue chip companies, which was great fun. And I realised then if I won this thing called an elite club when I worked for part of Mars, I would get a weekend away. And I said, well, if you'll do it on my birthday, I'll win it every quarter. And that was the big incentive, was to win this elite club and go, places like Windsor, the Ritz, go to West End shows. So it was marvellous. And then afterwards, unfortunately, I had an irreparable spinal injury, had an accident, a bad accident, and I had to look elsewhere to literally to start working. And I worked for a couple of charities in the voluntary sector and realised in those days, well, charities are like businesses today, but in those days they weren't. They're very much not the woolly jumper brigade, Fraser, but they treated it in a very different approach. Third sector was treated very differently than it is today. Today it's very much a business and has to look after itself. And from there, I ended up working with, I called it with the God Squad. I'd done a lot of work, and my mother was very good at volunteering me for things. And I worked for him in senior, and I ended up working for the Bishops' Conference of Scotland for 10 years, funnily enough. And that started off with doing some work after church on a Sunday, and then going up to help on a Tuesday afternoon. Turned out to be almost another career for 10 years with the God Squad. And after 10 years, there's not a lot you can do. And I then moved on again. And at that point, we ended up setting up a cooperative. I met Colin McKean, believe it or not, at this point, and he was into networking. And it was one of the hashtag, I don't think it was hashtag in those days, but it was the big expo at Hampden. And I met
When was it?
people who
What year was this roughly? What year was this?
This is going back. The first time I met Colin was about 25 years ago.
25
And
years
then
ago. That's early 2000. What?
Yeah, it was early
99.
2000. I'd had, well, what had happened was I lost my parents, my aunt, my uncle. I lost 18 people in 17 months.
17 months.
So,
Wow.
wow, it was my aunt, my uncle, even one of my my coaches, when our trainers in those days, when I was working in broadcasting, he unfortunately was killed. So it was a pretty horrific time, and I completely changed, and we went into coaching, and we set up an international coaching cooperative, and we were there for, again, 4.5 years, 5 years. And one of the chaps who owned it got very greedy and wanted to make more and more money. But when if you've got an organization, like a lot of organizations today are actually membership, they're membership owned and bought and paid for. Like, for example, the Chambers of Commerce, you have to give back to your members, because it's your members that are feeding in and keeping the organization alive. And from there, by default, I started to go into project management work, and literally ended up in business development with Morgan Stanley, introduced a couple of credit cards. And one of the girls said, you should be a contractor. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't think I could be self-employed. But Fraser, it was the best thing I ever did. Had an umbrella company. And the first month I went, how much money are they taking off me? Oh, no, I'll do this myself. And it was one of the young chaps who was a student when I was in the broadcasting had said to me, I know you. And through him, I set up with a private bank. I had an accountant. We set up the limited company, and I was well on my way to being a contractor. And that's how I fell into contracting, and then subsequently setting up on my own, because I think all of the work I'd done was maybe in the banking sector, finance, pensions, insurance, with Lloyd's Banking Group, RBS, HSBC, Barclays, and a lot of the mergers with, Halifax Bank of Scotland coming together, Lloyd's and TSB.
Yeah.
And then latterly, when Tesco brought out RBS to do their own banking. So it was fabulous. And from there, I ended up back in education. I got a project. I was asked to go in and do a job, and I was there for 3.5 months, and that was with Skills Development Scotland, and then leapfrogged from there into the West of Scotland, into the Glasgow Regional Colleges Board, working with one of the colleges.
There we go. So you've done a lot. You've certainly been covered a lot of bases over your time. So what? So, over the space of since you've known Colin 25 years, and that would have been. Probably. I'm guessing. I'm not going to. I'm going to ask the question. How old are you? I'm going to ask the question. I hate it because you've obviously done a lot.
Well, the big 60 has come and gone. I've not reached the next birthday. I'm on my journey to the next birthday.
So you're past 60.
Yeah.
So you must have been in your early 40s. You must have been in your late 30s then, roughly, when you met Colin.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he had just, and I don't want to drop him in it, but he just came out of RBS. Colin was a banker.
He seems to never stop. That boy, that boy just keeps going. And I've known him. I met him around about 2010 when I was at 4 Network. I went to 4 Networking around about that time. That was not long when I started my business. But to realize that he's never changed. He just looks the same person, just still as loud.
Absolutely. And Valerie's amazing. They're a lovely, lovely couple. And he's very earnest, Colin. He's very honest. And that's what I like about him. And I think the big thing that gets people, I don't like arrogant people or people that are really, think they're more important than they are. And he's got a huge amount of humility. And please God, I've got humility too, because that's the basis. If you just keep working away and keep going, you do get the recognition for the work you've done, and you do get the appreciation, and you meet some absolutely wonderful people like your good self, Fraser, who are really helpful and supportive, and that makes it all worthwhile.
It does help. It's good to help folk, and you get help back, and it's just to support folk in the best you can, it's easier, and it makes it more help. Yeah, do your best, that's all you can do for folk.
Well, absolutely, Fraser. And I think Colin's built up a lot of friendships over the years. We've all got to know one another, and we've got to know one another through all the good times and all the bad times, when things are great and things are not so good. And that's what's important. That strengthens the relationships, because you then reach out and say, if things aren't great, how can I help? How can we help? How can we serve you? And I think when you're asking those questions, you're actually moving on to being a much better person and doing a lot more give back. And that's for me what it's all about.
That's good. So let's go into what is it you do now? How did you get into what you're doing now? Let's discuss a bit of that.
Oh, well, what happened was COVID came, and the college obviously was shut. And I loved COVID, sad person. I decided to do an ILM7 because I was so used to working. I had 7 local authorities, 4 colleges, 8 campuses, and about 700 students over 3 cohorts. So it was huge, the amount of work. And I dealt with all the lectures because we had 14 foundation apprenticeships. So you can imagine the interaction with all these people on a daily basis. And then COVID came and the college was shut. So we were like, well, what do we do? But you still work at that level, Fraser.
Yeah.
So exactly. I decided I had to do an ILM7 because of the level I'd worked at when I was in the banking sector and the finance sector. I thought, I'm going to do an executive coaching qualification. So that took me just over a year. And at that time, it was wonderful because I was doing pro bono coaching. You have to do so many hours. It was a lot of hard work. But you were interviewing people, coaching them, getting feedback, writing up the reports, submitting all of the... It was like doing 11 little mini... when you do a degree, you have to do like... I can't think what the word is. You do a dissertation. So it was like 11 mini dissertations. I did that, and that when I just before I passed, I got the opportunity to do another course, which was advanced neuroscience, and I loved it to find out how does your brain work, and that was another 6 months course, but it was all during lockdown. So it was wonderful because you were really focused, really concentrated. I felt as if I had a lot, I was learning a lot, but it was entertaining, Fraser, because there's only so much, daytime television you can cope with.
Is that so? So you haven't operated on anybody's brain yet, no?
No, no, I did quite a lot of actually people. It's a bit like you've got 5 connectors in your brains with your energy, your transfers, and it's the brain is like 2% of our mass, our body weight, but it's 20% of the actual muscle. It's a huge muscle in our body, and it's one of those muscles, like any muscle, if it's not used, it really does go to seed. So you have to use your brain.
Exactly. So obviously, gradually with coming out of COVID and all that stuff that you loved, when you started getting back in outside again, leading up to when you started getting back outside, what were you doing when you started to leave your house, as you say?
Well, funnily enough, it was during that time a friend was writing a book, and I ended up doing a lot of ghost writing for people. And eventually somebody said to me, "So what is it you actually do?" And I said, "I literally take people by the hand and walk them through a process of who they are, why they're the expert, what is it they really know, who are their customers, what do the customers need to know, and how do they leave their legacy?" 6 different phases or steps, and that was it. That was the business book blueprint that was born. And I used that process. I actually used all the coaching and the teaching techniques and all the things that I'd learned over the years to put into a book. So I put the first part of the book about speech coaching, and the second part of the book, if you actually want to write a business book, write about yourself, your products and your services, this is how you do it. And I wrote it, we got it published, and I was very surprised. It went to an international bestseller on the day it was published,
Wow.
on the 14th of February last year. And I didn't set out to do that. It just happened. And I can tell you, I'm very, very grateful.
That's good. That's good. So, how did you come up with the idea of setting up an event for International Women's Day? When did this all materialise? Because it obviously doesn't. It's a big event and it's a big day.
It is. What happened last year, I was part of the coach that I was working with, because I'm a qualified coach, I do have a coach and undertake supervision. I'm also a member of the EMCC, which is the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. I really believe if you're dealing with people's brains, like if you were counselling, it's a very regulated. So I feel coaching should be exactly the same. It's not in this country. It is in Austria and America, for example, but it's not here, but it will come here. And last year I was invited to speak. I was speaking out in Marrakesh, and I was invited to speak at an International Women's Day in Manchester. And it was one of those experiences where I got on stage, and within 10 seconds of being on stage, you're mic'd up with 2 different mics, Fraser. Both mics failed.
Nightmare.
And I'm thinking, this isn't supposed to happen. And of course, being a female, and you should always wear like chaps, you've got like a trousers with a belt, so your mic's in the back. With a woman, you have to hide it down the back of the so it was a pantomime to get these mics off and re-mic'd up. And when I eventually got back on stage, I got huge applause, and I thought, I would have done that anyway. I just switched these off. I didn't know I was going to get a great cheer coming back on. And I learned so much on the day that I thought, we all have to go down south in Scotland for things like go to Birmingham, for the entrepreneurs show, go to London to excel for the big business shows. Why don't we do one in Scotland? And that was how the idea was born.
Do you find that there is a lot of, in general, in business or things, it seems it's either always far away. Now, okay, or maybe you're in the West Coast, for example, you've got the hydro. Now, the hydro, everything seems to, maybe there's always a lot of things in Glasgow, but never, I don't think Edinburgh really has the facilities or needs to build the facility. I think that's the problem, that everything seems to be in one place. It's hard. You ever find it's like a city has a favoritism?
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt, Fraser, one of the things is we had our office when we had the International Coaching Cooperative. We were at Zion House in the University Innovation Park, which was wonderful. I loved it. It's the most beautiful grounds, a baronial castle, a lake. And the most interesting thing is it's kind of neutral Stirling. So you've got people that can come down from Aberdeen, get straight to Stirling on the train, people from Perth and Dundee. You can go from Glasgow or Edinburgh to Stirling, and because it's being held on Saturday, the 8th of March, which is actually International Women's Day, and the advantage is because the students are there. There are buses every 6 or 7 minutes, and it only takes about 6 or 7 minutes to get from the train station or the bus station to the university. And it's a beautiful place. So that's why I love the university, and I've done a lot of events there. And it just felt like going home.
There we go. So tell us the plan for what kind of speakers, and tell us the sort of the general insight to this event.
Well, I'm absolutely blessed, to be honest. It's Lady Susan Hockey, CBE, who's the Lanarkshire Lord Lieutenant, and she was appointed by Her Majesty the Queen, and it's still under her tenure. And she's going to come and open. So I'm so looking forward to that. Lady Susan's lovely. She's so down to earth, and she's such a great entrepreneur. She's worked her way up, and she's great deal of humility, very honest lady. So she's going to come and open. Just prior to that, we're going to have Sharon Miller, who's going to give us some laughter medicine. So we're all pretty high and full of the joys. And then we're having Wendy Harris, who really believes in getting everybody to speak to each other, getting over that. When you go somewhere, you might go on your own, or you've got separated from your friend, to get everybody up networking and meeting. And then we have Ev Foster, who's from Keller Williams UK, and talking about her story and doing some exercises, because it's going to be not a simple chalk and talk. We're going to have a property game all during lunch. And I'm fortunate we've got 3 influencers. Our first one is Maddie Hill, who's she's working with the BBC. She works with the Johnny Walker Experience. She's an actress. She's 1 million on TikTok. Can you believe that?
Wow.
She started, lovely lass. She comes from Orkney. She came to the drama school in Edinburgh. Absolutely lovely, carving out a career with as an actress and a presenter. And she's one of the major influencers. The second one is a lady called Veronica Pallade, probably best known for Rona the Unicorn. And she has a following of 106,000 on Facebook and 300,000 on Instagram. And Veronica's absolutely lovely. You wouldn't know it, but she's got several degrees. She's from Moldova. She speaks English much better than I do. Shh, don't tell her. And she's lovely. And she's all into, if you're going on holiday to be somewhere like Edinburgh, obviously the capital city, let's do it for less. So she's very much into the value, the worth. And then Meryl Ann Williams, who won the first ever Traitors. So Meryl Ann's coming along with her +1. I'm hoping might be Erica. So 2 other influencers are coming along. And then finalising, sorry?
Keep going.
Yeah. And then Annabelle Beckwith, who I've known Annabelle, who's absolutely a force to be reckoned with, is going to do very much on the topic. And it's also her book launch. She's launching a new book. So I'm not going to steal her thunder and tell you the name, but she's having a book launch. And the very final part of the day is awards. Now, it's not simply like I've got awards for like speaking. We're going to do it on the day. So it's going to be fun, like the best, most colourful dressed person, the person that has been the most entertaining during the course of the day, the person who's done the most networking. So we're going to spot prize. And the speakers and myself and a few of the other exhibition stands, we have Alex Coward, who's got ACS Solutioning, Alex is an amazing lady. She's hosting a table and also an exhibition stand. We have Arlene Mitchell, who's from Arran Aromatics. Arran Aromatics are supporting us, and also King Street Apart to Tell, owned by Neil and Paul. And their lovely ladies, Laura Chalkley and Abby Robertson, are coming along with Rebecca Foster from Spark Communications. So we've got a huge support there. And
Sweet.
they're linking in with Maiden Sterling. So we've got the a Sterling input there. And also the Dr. Lauren Cahoon from the British Menopause Society has an exhibition stand as well. And some property ladies and some people who do like staging ladies. So it's going to be phenomenal.
There it goes. You've got a big number of people coming, which is great. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so what are you still on the? Obviously, it's on the, what did you say, 8th of March? You say it was
Saturday, the 8th of March. We're 8 weeks and counting. I'm looking for
So
people to come along. I've got a great link. If we can share the link, and also on LinkedIn. It's up on LinkedIn. Have my brochure.
There we go. So you've got a secure. There we go. QR code. We
And it's also, I was going to say, so Angela produces Women's Business Club Network, and Angela's got 32,000 in her network. So I'm working with a wonderful woman who's got a huge network, and she's created the link on LinkedIn for me, which is wonderful. And we're busy putting that out. So I'd be very grateful to put a link out, Fraser.
Yeah, well, so who going forward after, even though you're still looking for people, who you want more? Was it more sponsors you're looking for, or what is it specifically looking for? Or you've got your
More
speakers.
people to take. I think some more people to showcase. We also, because it's the university, we have stands, and a lot of people who have said and we've been negotiating with a few people. They're looking at maybe not necessarily having a great big exhibition, not great big, but an exhibition table, but maybe we can pop leaflets up this size to A1 size, so people can come and read it. Where it's going to be a day of activities. I want people to engage. I didn't mention Donna Kennedy, who's coming. She's a master of neuro-linguistic programming. She's a psychologist. She's my one of my keynote speakers in the morning, and she's looking for people to go on her courses. So it's all about engaging with people, to see what's available to them and to upskill them on the day. There'll also be a CPD certificate. So it's anyone who wants to either put a poster up or even an exhibition stand, and also for people to come along. That's what I'm looking for.
Cool. So where can people connect with you and how they want to get in contact with, like even for your services, for ghostwriting or whatever they want? How can they connect with you?
LinkedIn. I'm on
Mainly
LinkedIn. Yep. In a red dress. Favorite colour.
Apart from the after the International Women's Day, so once that's done and dusted, what's your sort of 2025? Okay, you've got the first 8 weeks time. You've got this to take off your plate. Once that's off your plate, what's your kind of other goals that you're looking to do going forward for the rest of the year?
I'm involved in a book anthology, which we've had to shelf, which will come back off the shelf in March, and also speaking, because so many people are very nervous, even when they go networking, Fraser. As you know, they can't. People are more frightened of public speaking than they are of death. So I'll be doing several courses on how to conduct yourself if you were speaking in public, how to speak, how to control your breathing. Some people talk very, very quickly. Your brain will only compute 70 to 90 words per minute. It's not a lot of words, actually. And people talk a lot faster, especially us here in the west of Scotland. So we'll be doing
3 paragraphs a second almost.
Yeah. So it's how to get your message across. And often it's not what you say, it's how you say it and the way in which you say it. And I have some tricks of the trade that help people so that you can answer your questions. You can pose questions, but they're actually rhetorical questions. So you're giving your audience the answer. So I make it very, very easy for everybody.
So I'm surprised because I just had a random thought. I thought Colin McKean was going to be dressed up in disguise as a woman and try and sneak into your women's conference just because he loves networking so much. He'll laugh at this when he's listening to this back. He'll laugh at this. Sorry, Colin. Try not dying me, please.
Apologies.
But
it's a flight from yesterday. I'm still, but
But just to everyone who's been watching, if you want to connect with Fiona, you'll get on LinkedIn. We'll have the link. This is all live. We're broadcasting live through Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We will share this with the Coffee Connections kind of crew, and so they can rewatch this and get an idea about who Fiona is if they don't know her already, and other people as well. She's based in. Where are you actually based? You're in Glasgow, but you're
Airdrie.
No,
And my sister says, "Why are you still in Airdrie?" And I came back on the flight last night. Came back from Heathrow to Glasgow. Came out, got the bus directly to Buchanan. No, I beg your pardon. Queen Street. Got on the train to Queen Street, and the local taxi company, plug for Airdrie taxis here, are absolutely wonderful, and they take me home in literally 5 minutes, and they're very, very cheap. So if I go anywhere, Airdrie taxis take me everywhere.
There you go. Brilliant. That's what you want. So, so basically, that's what we'll kind of, I think, is there anything else you want to say or final words you want to share?
Just say we'd look forward to welcoming everybody who's interested in coming along. And if you want to know anything, have a chat. Because like Colin, I know so many people, and especially with your good self-raiser, we're happy to introduce people and happy to see how we can help and serve you.
Where can we, obviously the people who might be watching or seeing the replay of this with video, obviously there'll be audio, but where would you like to connect with people, like in different countries, like America, for example, or other podcasts?
I'm very fortunate at the moment because through LinkedIn and through Angela's Women's Business Club, and I didn't say we have 3 other speakers who have agreed to speak because we're having the event videoed. We have 2 videographers, Ben and Reese, who are coming on the day, and also a photographer. So it's a bit like, it's not just a Women's Day, it's creating a memory for everyone to take away with them for the rest of the year to use on their social media.
Got you. There we go. That'll be fun. Well, to everyone who's been listening to this insight for Fiona Taylor and the International Women's Day coming up on the 8th of March 2025. March, talk about 8 weeks. That doesn't. You blink and that'll be 8 weeks. Time flies these days. So to everyone who will watch this on the replay or listen, and want to connect with Fiona, you get her on LinkedIn, and she has multiple services she can offer you, from especially if you're into your books and need a hand with that and speaking, etc. So thanks again for the very spontaneous interview and getting it sorted and getting it being on the Ramsey Unleashed Going Beyond Borders podcast. And thanks again and for being on. To everyone who's watching, we wish you a great day wherever you are in the world, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers for now.
Thank you so much, Fraser.